BIP of Bizarre Interest Productions, and behind the scenes confession. Today's video was supposed to be about Leo and Luna from Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds, but that script's taking me way too long and I've had to deal with, and I mean a lot of behind the scenes issues. So I figured I'd just talk about what comes from the heart given how late in the night it is. I was also on the poll. The Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime series kind of needed more tag duels, and it's kind of weird that they didn't have more. Alright, granted, I know in real life, allegedly, there's not a circuit or appeal for that, but let's think about the fact that Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a series built on connections, friendships, and the bonds between people that continuously gets overshadowed by the number of people who care more about it being dark and edgy, and how 7 out of the 8 series had a complete genocide, and less so on how the people in the driver's seat of the story try to stop those genocides from continuing. In fact, we're going to talk about each Yu-Gi-Oh! Series to an extent and talk about how, in some cases, it definitely would have benefited some of those characters in hindsight. Tag duels are great because it can usually progress two character stories, especially if they're on the same side, but at different motivations, started off on the wrong foot, and a duel can either bring them together or show off their strengths. Take a look at the U-Boy and either their best friend or rival characters. Yugi and Joey had their first duel against the Paradox Brothers in one of Duelist Kingdom's more unique duels, resulting in them fusing monsters for the first time, while he also had a duel teaming up with Kaiba against the Mask Duo. And in the anime, the virtual work and Waking the Dragons art gave both pairs an extra time to duel together. How interesting would it have been if Kaiba and Joey ever teamed up in a duel before? Given that Kaiba is willing to work with Yugi when the chips are down and Joey's gotten more serious as a duelist, imagine a scenario where Kaiba and Joey had to team up in a duel, and through Joey's luck, he'd actually be able to have Kaiba shake off his grudge. Or take Jaden and Cyrus, where they had to tag duel against the Paradox Brothers or they'll get expelled. They target Cyrus because he's seen as the weak link that pushes Cyrus to do better, and that results in a fusion of both of their monsters, which is pretty cool, allowing Cyrus to defeat the Paradox Brothers, which even if you hate Cyrus, you gotta give him respect for that. Then there's Crow, who dueled Sector Security with Yusei after reuniting in years. One of the more unappreciated ones is Yuma and Shark dueling in episodes 11 and 12, since Yuma and Shark started off not liking each other, before Yuma got to learn about Shark's situation after he beat Yuma in the rematch but spared the key, and Yuma swayed him into turning against his gang since the duel were going to frame Shark for the death, resulting in them working together and Shark starting to value Yuma as a friend, which pays off a heck ton down the line. Then you've got Yuya and Gogenzaka in their tag team against the Battle Beast, where Gogenzaka sacrifices his entire deck strategy in order to save Yuya, which is something most people would not do in any other circumstances. The only times we've never had the U-Boy and U-Girl team up in a fight were the last 3 seasons, Reigns, Sevens, and Go Rush. But I can forgive the last two because there were circumstances where they've actively helped each other in duels before. Luke took over for Yuga when the latter was hurt from Tiger too much to continue against his evil counterpart, and Luke finished the strategy that Yuga had planned, and Yuga has combined his and Luke's aces in the final battles of Sevens. Meanwhile, Udius and Yuhi have taken over each other's duel in the end of Season 2. It's a shame Playmaker and Soulburner never dueled together, though. Playmaker could have been struggling or almost lost to Bowman at the beginning of Season 2 when Soulburner stepped in to save him and causing the loss to be a team effort, especially since Takeru was able to get Yusaku to trust him by doing the one thing every other Reigns hero never did to Playmaker outside of Kusanagi: approach him as a friend willing to help him and never treat him as an antagonist. Plus, we've also got a few dynamics that have only been explored a few times. The best friend teaming up with the lead girl doesn't happen much, though we've had Crow and Akiza team up against Sherry in our Cradle Arc of 5Ds. Heck, in Arc 5, Yuzu and Gogenzaka ended up accidentally initiating a tag duel since their duels ended up being close to one another against Olga and Halil. Then in Go Rush, Yuhi and Yuamu teamed up against Rovian and Muda and Dionys, even though they lost both of those. So it's definitely a dynamic that could have been used more. Joey and Taya would have been fun because Taya had to teach Joey how to play a few times. Alexis and Cyrus seem to get along. Shark and Bronk helping Tori out would be cool. Heck, a duel where Luke and Roman have to get along and not bicker writes itself. Plus, we've almost never had the lead boy and lead girl team up in a duel together. That definitely would have been cool. And given that Yu-Gi-Oh! Has been accused of treating its lead girls like crap, having tag duels or 2v1 duels would ultimately help that situation rather than harm. Like, Taya has used Yugi's cards before, and having her team up with base Yugi would strengthen their relationship, especially since people wanted Taya to duel Johnny Steps. I made a video about Yu-Gi-Oh! Duels with the wrong opponent before, but imagine Johnny had challenged them both, but Yugi just supported Taya's plays while Taya proved herself. Jaden and Alexis duel together, but imagine Yusei and Akiza dueling side by side, having Stardust and Black Rose work together. Or given Tori never won a duel, Imagine Yuma still believing in her and him using her cards for them to win. Heck, Yuya and Yuzu writes themselves, since part of the theme was that the U-boys being born from darkness and the U-girls being the one to stop them originally, doesn't mean they couldn't have fell in love or worked together for a change and prevent that negative outcome. And what was supposed to be a key theme for Yusaku was about trusting others more, especially after Aoi dude one of the prototypes after him. Imagine if Playmaker was fighting both of them at the same time, and Aoi showing up turned it into a 2v2, using her swarm tactics to bolster their link monsters and take them on in one swoop. Yuga and Roman would also be a good pairing. After Arc 1, Roman could still feel bad for betraying them, since Luke was also being kind of a jerk that Arc 2, but Yuga explains during a team-up duel that he had a feeling something was up, but she still had fun with them and hopes that she can just trust them with what's going on next time. Heck, remember in the past video where I said Alexa should have dueled Night Shroud given that it was her brother that she was trying to save back in Season 1? Well, if they wanted Jaden to be the one who has to duel most of the Shadow Riders, if Jaden and Alexis had teamed up to save Night Shroud, that actually would have been better for the story, since it showed the Shadow Riders are so tough that the Queen and the Wild Card of Duel Academy would have to team up. But it'd give Alexis more agency, since searching for her brother kickstarted the plot in the first place. I could keep going, but I need this video out before 12 p.m, so let me know if you want to follow up to this video and what points you agree or disagree with. And BIP for Bizarre Interest Productions, signing off.